I think I fell behind on schedule for sure.
Okay.
I took a course. So I think the first couple of months, I wasn't really consistent. I think I was distracted for the first couple of months.
Mm,
It was a little tough to go back to studying after, a year or a little less than a year break. I think almost entirely, or at least 90% of it, is just studying enough so you are at the level of the test or above the level of the test. So you feel comfortable taking it and passing it. I would say I would put at least 3 hours on a weekday and up to 8 or 10 hours on the weekends, each Saturday and Sunday. And I think a lot had to do with, the FE and still having certain concepts fresh enough, and having your course always available. I think, like, again, like I mentioned before, I don't want to mislead anybody. I think 90% of it is studying a lot, studying enough so you can be comfortable at the test level.
Andres, welcome back to our channel. I'm really excited to have you here with us today.
Yeah, thank you for having me. Glad to be back. It only means one thing, right? I passed the test, and in this case was the PE.
Awesome. Congratulations. I'm really excited for you. I do remember when I interviewed you for the FE exam, you did mention that you wanted to do your PE right away. And like I said before we started recording this, I knew it was just a matter of time that you were gonna just, email us and let us know that you passed your PE. I had no doubt that yeah, you can do it. I knew after that interview, a lot of things you shared with us that showed that you had such a great discipline, work ethic, and I was like, for sure, Andres is gonna like pass his PE with no problem. So I'm really happy to do this, and I can't wait to hear about your PE journey. Now, before we dive in and ask a lot of questions about UP, can you please remind us when did you pass your FE exam, and also when did you start preparing for the PE?
I passed my FB, I think it was March, April, 2023. So close to a year ago, a little over a year ago. And I started preparing, I think it was in January this year.
January. Okay. And then when did you pass this your PE? Was it June?
I took it on May 7th. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Wow. So that's 5 months. So you prepared 5 months for your PE?
Not really, not entirely.
Okay.
I think I fell behind on schedule for sure.
Okay.
I took a course. So I think the first couple of months, I wasn't really consistent.
Mm,
So I would say the actual intense studying was for about 3 months.
3 months. Okay. So you got like more serious about it like at the end.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I think I was distracted for the first couple of months.
Mm,
It was a little tough to go back to studying after, a year or a little less than a year break. Um, and of course, the first topic is like your depth on the FE becomes your morning session on the PE. So
right.
it was like refreshing all that material. It's like, okay, here we go again, transportation,
Mm,
construction. So it was a little tough in the beginning and getting accustomed to a different course, a different approach. But then when I realized I only had 3 months left to take the test, then I really, I really switched it and really went at it.
got you. Did you schedule your exam right away, or did you wait till you started studying?
I think it was pretty much at the same time. Like I scheduled my test and I enrolled for the course. It was at the
Okay.
same time, yeah.
Okay. So like around January.
Yeah, around January. But I think the course actually started in February,
I
if I'm not
see.
mistaken. Yeah.
Okay, okay. So when you started like getting that pressure, oh, the exam is approaching, you're like, I really need to buckle down and take this like more seriously and start studying for it. Now, did you have to submit anything to the NCS before you could take the exam?
Well, you need to have passed your FE. I think that's the only requirement, if I'm not mistaken, at least for Florida.
Okay, interesting. Okay, so you didn't submit a prior experience or anything like that?
No, that's for licensure. So once you apply for your PE license, you gotta have all that already in there. Like they check for references, your work history, all that, but not to take the test.
Interesting.
Um, yeah. For
Okay.
Florida, I think anyone can take the FE, and for the PE, you have to pass the FE. Those are the only requirements.
Okay. Okay. That's great to know that because we had I don't know if you watched it, but we interviewed Andre. Um
Yeah.
and it's funny because I think you guys been to a webinar together.
Yeah, we have. I was
Yeah,
really surprised that I think we passed the FE more or less at the same time, and then the PE more or less at the same time.
I know.
It's funny. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And then after the interview, I told him Andres passed his PE and I'm gonna interview him. And he was so, so happy and so
Yeah.
excited. So but when I interviewed him and then I asked him that question, it was different. I forgot which state he's in, but they did require him to submit prior experience, signatures from engineers and all that before he could actually sit and take the PE. So
Yeah.
I'm really glad I asked you this because I think it just really depends on the state. And I think we get this question a lot from students. They would email us, "Hey, I want to take the PE. What are the requirement?" Usually, I always tell people to call the NCS directly and ask them
Yeah.
because every state is different and they have different requirements. So I'm really glad you shared that with us. So you now once now to apply for your license, that's when you have to submit all the experience, your
Yeah,
prior
that would
experience.
be the exact same recommendation as you give them. Reach out to both NCES and your board, your
Mm,
state board, and see what the process looks like. NCES, what it is just your record holder where you complete your forms online. I
mhm.
think some states still take the paperwork and all that, but it's like huge amount of paperwork. So once you complete your records on NCES, you simply transmit it to the board you're applying to. And once you get there, then you reach out to your board and ask them, what other requirements are needed to apply for your license.
Okay, awesome. Thank you for sharing that with us.
Yes.
Um, okay, let's talk about go back to the PE. Which PE did you take?
I took civil, water resources, and environmental.
Okay, and then how many times did you take it?
Just one.
Well, okay, so you passed. Okay, let's take a step back here. So if I remember, I think you graduated college like in 2012. Is that correct?
2008.
2008. I apologize. Okay, so that's like you've been out of school for a while.
Yeah.
2008. You didn't graduate from the US, right?
No, back in Venezuela.
Venezuela. Okay, so you graduated in 2008 um, from Venezuela. You passed your FE exam on your first try. That one I do remember because
Yep.
that was very impressive. And then you passed your PE on your first try again. That's awesome. Like
Correct.
that's very impressive. So
Thank you.
let's talk a little bit about your we have to dive into like what are your study tips, like how are you able to accomplish such great achievements on your first try? Can you tell us a little bit about like your schedule, how do you study, how do you stay focused, all that stuff?
Sure. I think every time I started studying, you look for as much resources as you can get your hands on, right? Like you go on Reddit, you go on YouTube, like what are the tips, what are the tricks? But and I wish I could say, here are the tips that are gonna make you pass the test. I think almost entirely, or at least 90% of it is just studying enough so you are at the level of the test, or above the level of the test. So you feel comfortable taking it and passing it. Just like the FE, I went really hard at it. I would say I would put at least 3 hours on a weekday and up to 8 or 10 hours on the weekends, each Saturday and Sunday. So that's a lot of time. It was on a compressed schedule, so probably like 3 months, maybe a little more. Then like three and a half months of that. And I just did so many exercises and practice exams, quizzes. I would say I did over 1,000 problems potentially. And then of course you can do a lot of stuff to make that process better and be on a good spot when you take the test. You know, you gotta have good sleep, get good rest, good balance. You can't be too stressed out. A little stress is good because it keeps you focused, but not too stressed where it starts like hindering your performance. But yeah, I wish I could say no, I had a great balance between life, work, studying, exercise. I went dancing to the park. It really wasn't like that. I put my life on pause for like 3 months, and that's the only thing I did, just studying. And I think I do have a story to back that up. I have a friend who recently passed his FE. He took it once previously and failed. And after I passed my PE and he was about to take his FE, we had a conversation, and I was just telling him what I did and what my schedule looked like. I guess to give him a perspective of, hey, this is how much effort I put into passing both of the exams. And he passed. And he called me, he told me, thank you for that. I think that's what made the difference. Because these things are so subjective. Is the test hard? For some people it is, for some people it isn't. Um, are you studying a lot? That's also subjective, right? I mean, for some people, 2 hours on a weekday is a lot. Some others, 6 hours, it's a lot. So I think just put a lot of effort on it. And if you think you need that much effort to pass the test, then try to increase that effort so you can increase your chances of passing.
That was very well said. Thank you for sharing that with us. And I want to ask you. So you mentioned that you would sit for 8 hours, and you would study during the weekend for like 8 to 9 hours, Saturday and Sunday. And I know a lot of people, not only their schedule can allow it, but even if their schedule does allow it, I think some people struggle with just like focusing for that many hours. Can you tell us a little bit about like how do you do it? How do you basically, go, okay, this today, I'm going to study for 8 hours, 9 hours, and then repeat the same exact thing the next day. And then Monday start to work. And right, like you said, you pause your life completely. There was no work-life balance or study work-life balance.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there's nothing there so I guess like what helped you to stay motivated for that long, and then what kept you going?
It's a very good question. Um, I think I think it starts with scheduling the test. So
Mm,
that's an important thing. I've seen some people who start studying and they haven't even scheduled a test, so they don't have a date to work towards to, right? Um, and then in my case, I'm a little bit of a procrastinator. So it comes to the point where I'm like, okay, I only have like 16 weeks to pass the test, and I'm like, nothing. I haven't even started. So there's no room for, oh, I'm gonna take this Sunday because I need a break. I can't. I get myself to the point where you gotta use all the time you have to study so you can pass the test. And even the time I didn't have, I used some of my precious PTO, like my vacation time, to study. But thankfully it was worth it. I much rather have an intense 3 months and be over with than, dilute my time, maybe spread it out and not be as prepared to take the test.
Okay, so let me ask you this. If you had to, let's say, like distribute your focus on like two other things maybe, or one other, like P and something else, do you think you're able to do that? Or are you like naturally, do you like to just focus on one thing at a time?
I think you can focus on multiple things. It's possible. It's just hard. And thankfully in my case, we don't have kids yet. So no big responsibilities that require time. So I was able to, clear both exams, and now I can focus on other things.
Yeah. Yeah. So the reason I'm asking you this, and we talked a little bit about this before we started the interview, I do remember you had similar schedule when you were preparing for your FE, and you told me that you would study 8 to 9 hours on the weekend, and then you did 3 hours. It was very similar to your PE
Yeah.
schedule.
Yeah.
And I do remember I was sitting when you told me during the interview, I was thinking like I am like very similar to, like I can totally relate to that and to your schedule. And I totally understand how you can sit for 8, 9 hours and then have that focus, because I actually can do that. Well, at least before I had a baby. So when the baby, so like I mentioned that I have a 10-month-old baby, and it's been a little bit tricky to do that. But before that, I was able to sit for hours, and not only not enjoying it, but like I would like almost craved it. I love just sitting for hours and having that focus and just being in that zone. And that's something I've never really shared in our channel. It's just because I understand that a lot of people can't really sit for hours and focus. I can go to our do a video and be like, hey, if you want to pass your FE, you gotta study. I'm gonna lose people if I tell them you gotta study, you're gonna do pause on your life, no working out, nothing, and then you just gotta do like that 8 hours Saturday and Sunday. Now I didn't know that that's something people do struggle with. And so my husband keeps mentioning it to me. He goes like, wow, like how could you just sit? Because he would do maybe 3, 4 hours focus and then he's done. Right. And then for me, I can go for hours and I really enjoy it. And that's why I'm asking you these questions, because it's like if I want to do a video, let's say on YouTube, how do you sit and focus for 8 hours? I can't tell you. I can't tell you how you can do that. You know what I mean? And so that's why I'm trying to figure out if you'll be able to share with us how you can do it. But
Right.
yeah, if you have any
Yeah,
thoughts.
I see where you're coming from.
Yeah,
I would say, of course, we're not telling anybody to do this, right?
exactly.
But I would say maybe it doesn't have to be continuously 8 hours, right? But I just say this to put things into perspective of, the amount of effort that's behind passing one of. But it's not like, oh yeah, I studied a little bit for like 2 weeks and I passed the test. No, it was a lot of study.
Right.
And so I think I've seen previous interviews where, you know, some other students, they like to take a day off, or, they still want to have their weekends. They don't feel like studying throughout the week. And in contrast, a Saturday for me was like 8 to 10 hours. That's like a week. So I'm saying 3 months. But if you put together the amount of hours, it could be 6 months for someone else who is not as intense.
Right. But I feel like that intensity is what helps us to be more focused and dive deeper into the subjects. if that makes sense. Like if
Yeah.
I'm working on a subject, like I was preparing thermomechanical afternoon course, and when I would start the subjects, like that's all I do for weeks, for days. I'm thinking about thermodynamics when I wake up, when I'm eating, when I'm, like that's all I think about. And I think having that like focus and always thinking about that, it just like helps you kind of understand those topics better, I get like better. And so
Yeah.
I think I can see both, right? Having that life balance is very important so you don't burn out and stuff. But I also understand that sometimes when, like in your case, the date was getting closer, you had 3 months and a half. And I feel like that intensity and just being focused for hours and studying something over and over again during those 3 hours could actually help you grasp maybe the concepts better. I don't know if any of
Yeah.
this makes sense, but
Yeah,
yeah,
it does.
just a
It
thought.
does.
Yeah.
I would also say, sorry for interrupting.
No.
I would also say that I guess the days leading to the test, it was way easier to do that. Like to have those sessions of 8 hours at 8 hours because it had already been like trying to do that to get to that level for 3 months. But in the beginning is I could see how tough it is, right? To
Yeah.
It's forcing yourself to like, hey, let's sit down for 8 hours and do this many exercise. Um, I could see how it could not work in the beginning, and it's
Yeah.
gonna be tough to get yourself to that point.
Yeah. And I do, and just to make sure, I would like to clarify this, but like this is not the only way it works. Of course, we've had a lot of people who've done it where they were
Yeah,
able to do that work-life balance. And we don't recommend this, like you mentioned. This is like endless. If that's really like your nature and that's how you work, and if you feel like that will be better schedule for you, then go for it. But if not, then make sure you figure out a schedule that is more flexible and that would work for your family and your work and the whole your whole situation.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, as a disclaimer, I'm crazy.
Yeah. It's funny. um okay, all right. Okay, so let's now talk about resources. So you did mention that so for the FE you did take a Genieprep courses, and then for the PE, since we don't have courses for that, you took another course, and then you also mentioned that it took you a little bit of time to adjust to the new course, new style. Could you tell us a little bit about that? Which course did you use? Which study resources in general you use? And what helped you? What material didn't help you? Just so that it helps our students with their PE.
Yeah, so I took the EEP. Of course, I've seen all your interviews or most of them, and people kept on referring to this course. And after a little bit of research, I don't think the other courses were too compelling. A little generic, little standardized courses. So I went for it, and it's very good. I did use additional resources, but I don't think it's necessary. I think
Mm.
the course is very comprehensive. It has everything you need to pass the test. Um, the difference, I think the main difference with your course is that it's not unlimited. It has an expiration date, so that puts a little bit of pressure. And also, in your course, you have everything section into little, bite-sized small videos for each of the exercises. For this one, you have a class that's could be an hour long, 2 hours long.
Mm.
And so if you need to go back and refresh something, you're gonna have to rely on your memory. It's like, okay, that was like around I don't know, minute 45 on this video, and you're trying to scroll and find, what you need to refresh. Um, it's a little overwhelming, of course, I must say. They have tons of material. They
Mm.
have interactive quizzes, practice exams for each of the sections. They have simulation exams, and also they mail two binders to your house. Um, And I think in between the binders and the cores, there's more than 1,000 problems.
Wow.
So yeah, I think it was good. You know, if I had to recommend it, yeah, I'm recommending it. Um, I heard from other colleagues that the PE was way easier than your FE. And
Hmm.
at the time, I was like, dude, you took the test 10, 20 years ago. Like, you don't know what you're talking about. But I would say for me it was easier, the
Hmm.
PE. Could be a little bit of a number of reasons. Maybe I got better prepared for the PE. Maybe it was the fact that I already had the FE under my belt. And
Hmm.
so it was more of a refresher for half of the tests based on your course. Um, Maybe I was a little less stressed for the PE than for the FE. And I think that the FE is very challenging in the sense of it's broader, right? Like you get structural, you get all civil, but also you have math. I don't know, it's very broad. Whereas the PE in the afternoon is basically what you like, or should be what you like.
Hmm. Okay. And why were you less stressed to take the PE than the FE?
I don't think it was something that I controlled or it was intentional. I was just
Oh.
very anxious for the first. I guess it was because it was the first one.
Hmm.
Um, I was really doubting myself for the FE. I had no idea, what my level was in reference to those tests, and even in reference to engineering in the US. Um, but like I explained to my wife, I remember the FE and the PE for me were like you're trying to get into a club, but there's a huge line. There's like thousands of people waiting to get in the club. The PE is a VIP room inside the club, and the FE is like you're trying to get in the club first. So it's like a mountain that you're like, there's no way I can get in there, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like once you get in there, you'll figure it out how to get into the VIP, right?
Oh, I see.
Um, but yeah, and all of a sudden you're skipping people like, yeah, you can get in. That's how I saw you for passing the FE.
Yeah. Awesome. Okay, and then for the resources, did you use our afternoon course for the PE?
Yeah, I
You
did
did?
have to reference, yeah, a few
Okay.
times. Especially when I use other resources besides the course, and then I saw some things that were not being covered by the course. So, for instance, I can remember gates for fluid mechanics that was not covered in the course, but then I was taking another practice exam, and it was there. I was like, oh wow, I think I need to go back to Kenza and refresh some things. Yeah, for sure.
Okay. Okay. Awesome. Okay. Let's see here. What other questions I have? So we covered the schedule and then resources. You took a lot of practice exams. Um, did you feel like the FE exam kind of helped you with your PE preparation?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Um, yeah, I think it made a big difference. Um, I think it's more challenging, the FE. Um, you have less than 3 minutes per question. And you're touching on a lot of topics. So it helped in the sense of how to take that test, preparation, studying, and also the material. Um, Given that you take the same thing, right? Because I took FE
Mm-hmm.
Civil and then I went on PE Civil. So a lot of the PE in the morning were transportation, construction, um, soil mechanics, And that was basically very similar to what you have in your course in the afternoon. And for me, the morning, we call it the morning, but it's, like the first half of your test.
Yeah.
It was a breeze for me in the PE.
Mm. Oh,
And I think a lot had to do with, the FE and still having certain concepts fresh enough, and having your course always available.
awesome. And so when you took, so for the, I remember for the FE exam when I took it, when they give you the questions, it is in the order of the subjects that are on the specifications, right? So you get math first and then ethics, engineering, economics, and so on. Is that the same thing with the PE? Are the questions in order? Or is it just like
Yeah,
scattered? It
yeah,
is.
no, they're in order. Yeah,
Okay, okay.
they
Um,
follow the specs. Yeah,
okay. And the specific, because I do remember that they recently changed it, right? So they did you take when did you take it? Let me see.
yeah. I took it after the April changes.
After the April changes. Okay.
Yeah,
And um and did the course that you took, was it for the new PE?
yep,
Okay.
yep. They
Awesome.
already have one available
Oh
for,
wow.
and to be fair, I don't think there are too many changes. The
Okay.
major one is that they got rid of, at least for water and water resources, they got rid of structural.
Oh.
Everything else is just more of a reshuffling, organizing the
Hmm.
specs. I think there were like 17 sections. Now there's like 14 or 13 subjects.
Okay.
Um, but if you read them, it's pretty much the same, with the exception of structural, which is no longer there,
Hmm.
which was a blessing for me
Yeah.
because that's one of my topics that I'm like that.
Oh.
Yeah.
That's awesome. So it works out great for you. So you're like, I'm gonna the new one, I don't need to worry about steel concrete, that was great. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, I remember a colleague who took it before the April changes, and he told me like, "Hey, they're gonna change the specs in April, so you
Oh.
might want to take it, before." And I saw the changes, and I was like, "No, I'm taking it after for sure."
That's smart. Okay.
Yeah.
So and then okay, so they give you the questions in order, and then is the afternoon more about water resources and environmental, and then the breadth section is more like the FE where it's like a little bit general, they touch on other subjects. Is that how it is?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, it is. I mean, the specs are the specs, right? So they start going through the questions, and whatever the cutoff is, in my case, it was 42 in the morning and 38 in the afternoon. So the
Mm.
cutoff was hydrology,
Mm,
which for some contents could be considered as your depth, right? Like your
right.
focus. But it meant that I had some questions in the morning for
Yeah,
hydrology. Yeah.
that makes sense.
The rest of the morning, yeah, like I mentioned, transportation, soil mechanics, econ, it's still there.
Oh,
Yep.
is engineering economics in the specifications? Is it mentioned, or is that something people
Yeah.
just need to know?
Yes, it
Okay,
is.
it is. Okay, and
Can't
then
remember if they call it like econ. Maybe it has maybe it's like, I don't know.
okay,
Can't remember.
got you. Okay, and then so for the depth section, the hydraulics, hydrology, and environmental engineering, is it more in depth, and would you say harder than the water resources and environmental that is in the afternoon of the FE exam?
Oh, say that again, the comparison between the PE afternoon and
So the section of water resources and environmental, which is the depth that you took, right? Would you say it was more difficult and more in depth than the water resources that is covered in the FE exam?
oh, in the FE. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Way deeper. Yeah,
Wait.
absolutely.
Okay.
Way deeper. We got hydrology is pretty challenging, and it's the largest topic. I think they have up to 14 questions.
Oh wow. Okay.
So that was a little surprising. It's a little difficult to understand. They also
Mm,
have groundwater,
mm,
so they have questions about wells. I remember you also you have that in your
Yeah.
course. So for the FE,
Yeah.
they just go kind of like they increase a notch, right?
Yeah.
They got open channels and closed conduits. For the open channel, I think the new thing were culverts, a lot of energy,
Hmm.
and then the most challenging topics for me were water quality and the treatments for wastewater and water.
Hmm.
Um, that's not my strength, I would say. You know, it has a little bit of biology, a little bit of chemistry. Um, Thankfully, I didn't get too many questions on that, but yeah, when I was studying, it was a little difficult to understand.
Got you. Okay. And this is all mentioned in the specifications.
Yes,
Okay.
yes,
Was there
yes.
any subject that was on your exam and then it wasn't mentioned in the specs and you're like, oh wow, I should have like covered that?
No,
Okay. No surprises.
no surprises,
Okay.
thankfully.
Um, why I should have probably asked you this at the beginning, but this is one of the most common questions we get from students after they pass the FE. And I don't know if I had that conversation with you after our last interview, but a lot of students ask me which PE I should take. So can you tell us a little bit about why did you decide to take PE water resources and environmental?
I think it's down here in Florida, it's the most common,
Oh.
it's the most common discipline. Um, there's a ton of consultants who can do water work, pipeline pump stations. So you kind of you're close to it in a sense. Um, I think structural companies, geotech are a little more specialized, and there are not too many of them.
Mm.
So I guess it was natural for me to take this one, water resources. Also, the company I work for right now, it's like hyper specialized on water. So water treatment, wastewater treatment, stormwater. And I guess I've been exposed a lot to it. Before scheduling the test, of course, you go and I don't know, try different things like what if I take construction? Maybe it's easier. What if I take geotech? Might be easier. Um, but then I did a little bit more research, and for instance, I think geotech, they have 17 additional references
Mm.
besides your P manual, where you have all your formulas.
Wow.
Whereas the water resource only has two.
Mm.
Is they give you the 10 state standards for wastewater and water. So I was like, let's not overcomplicate this. Let's just go with water.
Okay. And do you feel like working in the field in water resources, did that help you a little bit with the PE? Or you feel like they're not like didn't help much?
I think it did. I mean, in the end, it's an academic
Right.
test. There's a lot of things that you will never see in the industry at work, but there's a good amount of things that you do. So I think it did help. Um, so if that's, I think that's a good thing for people who has certain delay to take the test. It's like you have some exposure at work of how things work, how concepts are really applied. And then I think it makes a little bit easier understanding those concepts when you're studying, as opposed to people who, which I mean, it's very positive to take these tests early on in your career. But I've seen a lot of people who take the tests early on and they don't fully understand how those concepts from an academic
Mm.
standpoint are applied to the industry. So I guess a positive thing of waiting this much for taking the test is that I definitely feel sharper when talking about concepts on
Mm.
hydraulics overall.
Got you. So um do you recommend like students to take the PE after they gain experience, or do they take it, or should they take it right after their FE? They pass their FE.
Well, I don't know how it is in other states, but in Florida, you still have to wait like at least 4 years so you can get your license. You can take the PE, but you still have to wait the 4 years to get your license. Um, I'd say they both have like pros and cons,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
You do want to start your career on a track where you're already maximizing, the best opportunities for you. Um, but I do think that I like the fact that I waited a little bit so I could um have a better understanding of how engineering concepts work.
gotcha. Makes sense. And so now passed your PE exam. You don't have your license yet because you haven't completed the 4 years experience.
No, I do.
Oh, you do. Oh, I'm sorry.
I mean, I have the 4 years. I sent the application to the board, so
Okay.
technically I don't have my number yet, but hopefully it's just a matter of time.
Oh, wow. Okay, that's awesome. Okay, I apologize. I thought because you mentioned it and I thought you still have to wait 4 years. Okay, that's awesome. So, um, okay, then okay, I'm gonna change that question. Then I was gonna ask you a different question. So then, in that case, how did passing the FE and the PE affected your personal and professional life?
I think personal a big difference because for me it's been a really long process since I learned what the FE and PE were and how important were for you. Of course, I didn't start studying at the beginning. I was like, that's super hard. I don't think I'll ever get my PE. So it was a long process. I don't know, it could have been like 6 years between like, you know, envisioning the whole process and overcoming those self-doubts, right? To the point where, okay, I'm a PE now. Um, so it affected every day in my life, everything I did. Going out, having fun. There was still like something in the back of your mind, like, hey, one more drink and you're a step further away from getting that PE.
Wow.
So that's no longer there. So that's a good thing. On the professional side, I guess, of course, it comes with a pay increase. I guess your credibility or the people who is rooting for it's like you support that. Um, and on the other side, I guess I used to cover myself a lot if I was designing something or um, doing whatever task, working on a project. I would use the fact that I wasn't a PE to cover myself. Like, oh, you have the last, like, I'm a PE, you are a PE. Now that changes. Now you gotta stand behind what you're designing, what you're working on.
How do you feel about that? How do you feel about like uh doing those designs and stamping the plans soon once you get your stamp?
Yeah, I think I'm ready. Of course, the first few projects, I'll probably go to my supervisors, my boss. Will you sign this? Yes, no. Okay, then I'll sign it.
Yeah.
Uh, but yeah, I think I'm ready. But at a point, I thought like it's gonna be years before I feel comfortable to sign and seal something.
Mm,
But guess I've learned enough. I've
yeah.
learned a lot.
That's awesome. That's the reason I asked you this because Andre got his stamp and he was nervous using it. And it's funny
Right.
because he has kids and his daughter brought like a paper and she's like, Dad, could you stamp this? And he was like, no. So but yeah, it's
Oh,
just
I might go to jail. Like, I don't know what you're gonna do with that piece of paper.
right. So he was like nervous using it. So that's why I asked you. I think everybody probably goes through that the first couple plans before you get to that point and you're comfortable. Because one thing to design it, because I used to design plans back in LA and at a structural design firm, and I used to design it, but I knew if I did a mistake, like my supervisor is gonna, of course, go over it before they sign it, seal it, right? So I had that backup, but when you don't have that backup, and now you have to double, triple check your work, and and make sure it's a little bit different, and I think it's gonna take people a while before they get comfortable with like, okay, this is good, and sign it. It takes time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. For instance, there's a lot of things that are similar and standard. You're gonna do a payment restoration, and you need that much of base, that much of sub base. But if you're signing and sealing, then you kind of have like question everything. How
Right.
much base and why? Can we increase this? Why is this much of 2 inches of asphalt? Why?
Yeah.
So it's yeah, you gotta be more thorough on what you're doing for sure if you're gonna be signing and sealing.
Yeah. Yeah. But yeah, this is awesome. Okay, I have one more question for you, Andres. So if and I think I asked you this in the FE as well. I always end with this question. So if a student comes up to you and asks you to list 3 things that really helped you pass your PE exam, what would you say to them?
I think again, like I mentioned before, I don't want to mislead anybody. I think 90% of it is studying a lot, studying enough so you can be comfortable at the test level. The other two things would be, I don't know, it works different for everybody. Exercising, eating well, having enough sleep, don't have extreme anxiety leading to the test day. But I'd say it's 90% studying and understanding the level that's required to pass the test.
Awesome. Awesome, Andres. Well, thank you so much for joining me today and sharing your incredible story, your PE journey. I'm really happy for you. I was really excited when we got that email from you that you passed your PE exam. It's incredible to see you achieved all this within like a year, I think, from like April to May. So it's incredible what you have accomplished. I hope you know that really excited for you, and yeah, for you to excel in your career and have that next drink without thinking about the ME or PE. So
Thank
yeah.
you.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you for having me back. I mean, and please thank the whole team, Rim, Pranita. They've been awesome throughout. And the same for you guys. Hopefully you can keep on growing, and hopefully this interview helps other students to pass their FB and PE.
Awesome. Thank you, Andres.
Thank you.